She said no 6 times. I counted. On the seventh, I stopped counting and started moving. I pulled her away, stood my ground, felt like a hero for exactly 4 seconds. Then the lights changed, the doors locked, and his voice filled every corner of that club like he owned it. Because he did.
The woman that interfered with my sister. Don't move!
Every eye in the room found me. Wrong place, wrong girl, wrong brother to cross. Chapter 1. The bass was pounding through Opalescent when I saw him, some drunk executive backing her against the bar. She kept saying no, but he wasn't listening. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her behind me. She said no, I told him, my voice cutting through the music. The girl squeezed my hand, grateful, and I thought that was it. Hero moment over. Then security appeared, not to remove the drunk guy, but flanking us both. The woman beside me went pale. "Oh no," she whispered. "My brother saw." I followed her gaze upward to the VIP balcony where a man in a tailored black suit stood watching us, phone pressed to his ear. Even from this distance, I could feel the intensity of his attention. He said something into the phone, and suddenly the music volume dropped. Not off, just low enough that the shift in atmosphere was unmistakable. The drunk executive was being escorted away by different security personnel, and the head of security, a tall Korean man with an earpiece, approached us with careful professionalism. "Ms. Bay, are you all right?" he asked in accented English. "I'm fine, Roy. Really, this woman helped me." She turned to me. "Thank you so much. That man wouldn't leave me alone." "Happy to help." I started to step back, ready to return to my photography station. "Ms. Fai?" Roy's voice stopped me. "Mr. Bay would like a word with you, if you have a moment." It was phrased as a question, but his positioning suggested it wasn't optional. My stomach tightened. The woman, Ms. Bay, looked distressed. "Please, you don't have to. I'll explain to my brother that you were helping." "It's fine," I said, though my pulse was racing. "I'm sure he just wants to understand what happened." Roy led me through the crowd toward a private elevator. As we ascended to the VIP level, he spoke quietly. "Mr. Bay can be intense, but he's fair. Just tell him the truth." I planned on it. The VIP lounge was elegant and understated. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the club, modern furniture in muted tones, and that man from the balcony standing with his back to us, looking down at the crowd below. "Sir, Ms. Fai," Roy announced, then retreated, leaving me alone with him. For a long moment, he didn't turn, just stood there, hands in pockets, perfectly still. I used the time to study him. Expensive suit that fit like it was made for him. Dark hair styled with precision. Shoulders set in a way that suggested he carried significant weight. When he finally turned, I got my first clear look at Manchik Bey. Sharp, handsome features. Dark eyes that assessed me with uncomfortable thoroughness. Maybe early 30s, though he carried himself with the authority of someone older. This was a man used to being obeyed. "Ms. Fai." He said my name like he'd called it 1,000 times in private. "Thank you for coming up. I wanted to speak with you about the incident downstairs." "I'm happy to explain. I've already reviewed the security footage from multiple angles." He moved to a tablet on the nearby table, turning it to show me. The screen displayed a clear view of the bar, the drunk man harassing his sister, her repeated attempts to disengage, him grabbing her arm, and then me intervening. "I've also identified the man. His name is William Chen. He's a private investigator who works for my sister's ex-husband." "Oh, that complicated things. I didn't know that. I just saw someone who needed help." I realized that. He gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. I have some questions, but I'm not interrogating you. I'm trying to understand the full situation." I sat, and he took the chair across from me, not behind a desk in a power position, but at eye level, a deliberate choice. "Walk me through what you saw," he said. "Every detail." So I did. I explained how I'd been photographing the crowd for the grand opening, how I'd noticed the interaction escalating, how the woman, his sister, had clearly been uncomfortable but trying to remain polite, how the man had physically prevented her from leaving. Manchik listened without interrupting, his expression neutral, but his attention absolute. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "You didn't know who my sister was," he said. It wasn't a question. No. Should I have? She curates at the National Museum. Our family is relatively prominent in Seoul business circles. He studied me. But you're new to the city. 3 months according to your work visa. You pulled my information already? I pull information on everyone who interacts significantly with my family. It's not personal. It's necessary. He leaned forward slightly. My sister is in the middle of a contentious custody battle. Her ex-husband, Eric Moore, is using every possible tactic to paint her as an unfit mother, including apparently sending investigators to create situations that look bad out of context. I processed that. So when I grabbed her and pulled her away, you did exactly the right thing. But now you're on Moore's radar. He'll investigate you, try to find anything scandalous, attempt to paint you as some kind of negative influence. His expression hardened. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know what you've walked into by helping my sister. I don't have anything scandalous to find. Everyone has something. A bad breakup, unpaid baying tickets, a social media post that could be taken out of context. He pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. If Moore or anyone connected to him contacts you, I'd appreciate it if you'd let me know immediately. And if you need legal counsel, my firm has resources available. I looked at the card. Bay Innovations, CEO. This wasn't just some protective brother. This was a major player. I appreciate the offer, but I can handle myself. I'm sure you can. But handling yourself and handling a man like Eric Moore are different things. He stood, and I did. The same. I'm sorry your good deed pulled you into this mess. The harassment you witnessed has been documented and will be filing a police report about Chen's behavior. You may be contacted for a statement. That's fine. He walked me to the elevator, and just before the doors opened, he spoke again. Ms. Fai, if I may ask, why did you help? You could have called security and stayed out of it, because she clearly needed help and no one else was doing anything. I met his eyes directly. Some situations don't leave time for weighing consequences. Something shifted in his expression, not quite a smile, but a softening. That's a rare quality. Thank you for having it. The elevator doors opened. As I stepped inside, he added, I hope this doesn't color your experience of Seoul negatively. It takes more than one aggressive PI to scare me off a city, I said. The doors closed on what might have been the beginning of an actual smile. I returned to my photography station, but the night felt different now. I caught glimpses of Manshik throughout the evening, always watching his sister, always alert. Once, our eyes met across the room, and he gave a slight nod of acknowledgement. When the event ended and I was packing up my equipment, Roy approached again. Mr. Bay wanted me to ensure you got home safely, and we have a car available if you need it. That's not necessary. He insists. And between us? Roy's expression was kind. It's not about you. It's about the fact that Chen is still out there somewhere, and Mr. Bay wouldn't forgive himself if anything happened to someone who helped his family. I accepted the ride. As the driver navigated Seoul's late-night streets, I thought about intense eyes and quiet protectiveness and the way Manshik Bay had thanked me like my help actually mattered. I didn't expect to see him again. I was very, very wrong. Chapter 2. 2 days later, I was editing photos in my tiny apartment when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ms. Fai, this is Manshik Bay. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I sat up straighter, surprised. No, I was just working. Is everything okay with your sister? She's fine. Actually, I'm calling about a professional matter. Would you be available to meet tomorrow afternoon? I have a proposition that might interest you. Every instinct said this was a bad idea. What kind of proposition? The kind that's better discussed in person. My office at Bay Innovations, 2 p.m.? He paused. I promise this is legitimate. You can bring someone with you if that makes you more comfortable. I should have said no. Should have recognized that getting further involved with this family's drama was asking for trouble. I'll be there, I heard myself say. Alone. But if this is sketchy, I'm walking out. That's fair. I'll have Roy meet you in the lobby and bring you up. He gave me the address. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this. After we hung up, I stared at my phone for a long time, wondering what I'd just agreed to. The next afternoon, I dressed professionally. Black slacks, a nice blouse, minimal jewelry. Bay Innovations occupied a gleaming tower in Seoul's financial district. Roy was waiting, as promised. Ms. Fai, good to see you again. Please, follow me. We took an express elevator to the executive floor. Roy led me through a maze of glass-walled offices where serious people had serious conversations, finally stopping at a corner office with a view that probably made CEOs weep with envy. Manshik stood from behind a massive desk when I entered. Today, he wore a charcoal gray suit with no tie, the top button of his shirt undone. Still professional, but slightly more approachable. Thank you for coming. He gestured to a seating area away from the desk, couches and a coffee table, less formal. Can I offer you anything? Coffee, tea, water? I'm fine. You said you had a proposition? He almost smiled at my directness. Straight to business. I respect that. He sat across from me. I've reviewed your photography portfolio. The work you've done is impressive. You have a genuine eye for capturing authentic moments. I hadn't expected that. Thank you. I'm going to be very direct with you because I think you'll appreciate honesty more than corporate maneuvering. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. My sister's custody hearing is in 6 months. During that time, we need to build a comprehensive case showing that Rose, my niece, is thriving in a stable, loving environment. Part of that involves documentation. You want to hire me as a photographer. I want to hire you as a documentary photographer, not staged portraits or event coverage, genuine moments of Ho-suk's life with her daughter, school pickups, homework sessions, weekend activities, the kind of authentic evidence that shows a judge what their relationship really looks like. It made sense from a strategic standpoint. Why me specifically? Because your portfolio shows you understand how to capture truth without manipulation, and because you've already met Ho-suk and Rose, so there's some initial comfort level. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. This is a proposed contract. 6-month engagement, part-time hours based on your availability. You'd continue your other work. This would supplement, not replace. The compensation is outlined inside. I opened the folder. The number made my eyes widen. That's extremely generous. It's fair for what I'm asking. I need someone who can integrate naturally into my sister's life, someone Rose will be comfortable around. That requires more than just technical skill. It requires character. His eyes met mine. You showed that character when you helped Ho-suk without knowing anything about our situation. That matters to me. I looked at the contract. It was detailed, professional, with clear boundaries about usage rights and compensation structure. Everything seemed legitimate. I need time to think about this. Of course. Take a week. Review it with a lawyer if you'd like. I'd encourage that, actually. He stood when I did. But, Ms. Fai, I want to be clear about something. This isn't charity or pity. Your work is good enough to earn this contract on merit. The fact that you also happen to be someone my family already trusts is simply fortunate timing. At the elevator, I turned back. Can I ask you something? Please. That night at the club, when you wanted to talk to me, were you angry? Did you think I was working with more somehow? He considered the question seriously. For about 30 seconds, yes. Then I watched the full footage and realized what had actually happened. After that, I was just grateful and concerned about the position my family's drama had put you in. He tilted his head slightly. Does that matter? It does. I needed to know if I'd be working with someone who jumps to worst-case scenarios. I gather information before drawing conclusions, he said, but I protect what's mine fiercely. That's something you should understand if you take this job. The elevator arrived. As the doors started to close, I held them open with one hand. I'll give you an answer in 3 days, not 7. No point dragging it out. This time, he definitely smiled. I look forward to hearing from you, Ms. Fai. Chapter 3. I spent those 3 days doing my own research. I looked up Bay Innovations, major tech and investment firm, solid reputation. Manshik at the helm for 5 years. I researched Eric Moore, successful attorney, messy divorce, custody battle ongoing. I found articles about the case that painted both sides sympathetically. I also had a lawyer friend back in New York review the contract via video call. This is incredibly straightforward, she said, scrolling through the document on her screen. No weird clauses, fair compensation, clear termination conditions. Honestly, Lucy, this is better than most photography contracts I've seen. He's giving you full creative control and limiting his usage rights to legal proceedings only. That's actually really respectful of your work. So you think I should take it? I think you should consider what you want. This is a lot of money, and it's legitimate work, but it's also embedding yourself in a family's legal drama that could get messy. She gave me her serious lawyer look. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Rose's bright eyes when her mother picked her up after the club incident, about Ho-suk's genuine gratitude, about the way Manshik had been protective without being possessive, professional without being cold. Yeah, I said. I think I am. 2 days later, I called Manshik's office and told his assistant I'd accept the contract. I had no idea. I'd just made the most important decision of my life. Chapter 4. The first official session was scheduled for a Saturday morning. Rose had a soccer game, and Ho-suk suggested it would be a good opportunity to capture natural family moments. I arrived at the field early, equipment bag over my shoulder, slightly nervous despite myself. Lucinda! Rose spotted me first, running over in her soccer uniform, ponytail bouncing. You came. Are you going to take pictures of me scoring goals? That's the plan. Think you can score a few for me? I'll score 100. She grabbed my hand unselfconsciously. Come meet my team. Ho-suk approached with an apologetic smile. Sorry, she's been excited all week that you'd be here. She's telling everyone you're a famous photographer. I'm definitely not famous. You are to her. Ho-suk's expression turned more serious. Thank you for taking this job. I know it's not conventional and the circumstances are complicated, but having these documented moments, it means everything. It's good work, I assured her, and Rose makes it easy. We were interrupted by Rose dragging me off to meet her teammates, and for the next hour, I forgot about custody battles and legal strategy. I just photographed kids playing soccer. Rose's fierce concentration, her celebration when she actually did score, the way Ho-suk cheered from the sidelines without being overbearing. I was reviewing shots on my camera's display when a shadow fell across the screen. How's the coverage going? I looked up to find Manshik standing beside me, dressed casually in dark jeans and a button-down shirt rolled to his elbows. It was jarring seeing him outside the suit and tie context. Good. Rose is a natural in front of the camera. I showed him a shot of his niece mid-kick, pure determination on her face. She's also pretty good at soccer. She gets that competitive streak from her mother. He watched Rose on the field with obvious affection, and possibly from me. You play? Not anymore, but I was semi-serious about football in university. He glanced at me. I wanted to thank you again for taking this contract. I know it's asking a lot. It's a job, I said simply. A good one. It's more than that. He gestured to the field where Ho-suk was talking with other parents, fully engaged. My sister has been diminished by this custody battle, constantly defensive, always worried about how things look. But right now, she's just being Rose's mother. That's because you're here documenting the truth, not staging some performance. I understood what he meant. The pressure of constant judgment could make anyone self-conscious. I'm just doing my job. You're doing it well. He checked his watch. I need to make some calls, but I'll be in the baying lot if you need anything. As he walked away, I noticed several of the soccer moms watching him with interest. Apparently, even at a kid's soccer game, Manshik Bai drew attention. After the game, Rose insisted I join them for lunch at a nearby Korean BBQ restaurant. It was casual, family style, nothing fancy. Rose chattered nonstop about the game while Ho-suk helped her navigate the menu. I captured it all. The easy affection between mother and daughter, Rose's animated storytelling, Ho-suk's patient corrections when her daughter exaggerated the number of goals she'd scored. Can I see the pictures? Rose asked. I showed her the display screen, flipping through shots from the game. She oohed and ahed appropriately, then stopped me on one particular image. That's my favorite, she said. It was a shot of her and Ho-suk hugging after the game, both of them grinning. Can you print that one for me? Absolutely. Will the judge see this picture? The question caught me off guard. Ho-suk's expression tightened slightly. Some of the pictures will be shown in court, I said carefully, to show how happy you are with your mom. Good, because I'm very happy. She said it with a kind of fierce certainty. Only children possess. My dad says I'd be happier living with him, but that's not true. I like visiting him, but I want to live with Iyama. Rose, Ho-suk's voice was gentle but firm. Let's not talk about court stuff right now, okay? But it's important. Lucinda needs to know that we're not pretending to be happy. We really are happy. She looked at me with those bright, serious eyes. You understand that, right? I do, I said honestly. And that's what I'm here to show. The truth. After lunch, Ho-suk took Rose home for a nap. Apparently, soccer was exhausting even for 8-year-olds. I was packing my equipment into my car when Manshik appeared. How did it go? Really well. I got some great shots. I pulled out my tablet and showed him a quick selection. These are just rough reviews, but you can see the natural interaction. He scrolled through slowly, his expression softening with each image. These are perfect. Exactly what we need. Rose asked if the judge would see them, I said. She wanted to make sure I knew they weren't pretending to be happy. His jaw tightened. She shouldn't have to think about things like that. She's 8. She's also smart and perceptive. She understands more than you probably want her to. I know. He handed back the tablet. Thank you for handling that well, for being honest with her. I won't lie to her. Not about this or anything else. He studied me for a moment. No, you wouldn't. That's becoming very clear. He pulled out his phone. I'm sending you Roy's direct number. If Eric or anyone associated with him approaches you, call immediately. Don't engage, just document and call. You think he'll come after me? I think he'll investigate everyone connected to Ho-suk's case. You're new, which makes you interesting. Just be careful. It wasn't paranoia. It was realistic caution. I will. Chapter 5. Over the next few weeks, I fell into a rhythm with the Bay family. Tuesday afternoons were homework help with Rose. Thursday evenings were dinner at the main house. Saturdays varied, sometimes museums, sometimes bays. Once a traditional Korean cooking class where Rose had more fun than anyone. I documented all of it. But I also found myself genuinely enjoying the time. Rose was hilarious and creative. Ho-suk was warm and intelligent. Even when I wasn't actively photographing, I was welcome. Manshik was around less frequently. He worked long hours, but when he was present, I noticed him. Hard not to. He had a way of filling a room just by entering it. About 6 weeks into the contract, I was at the house uploading photos when Manshik came home early, tension radiating from him. Bad day? Ho-suk asked. Moore filed new motions. He's claiming I'm using company resources inappropriately to influence the custody case. He loosened his tie with sharp movements. It's groundless, but it's designed to make me look like I'm abusing my position. Is he right? I asked. Both siblings looked at me. Are you using company resources? I hired you personally. I'm paying you from my own accounts, but Moore's lawyers are arguing that my position as CEO gives me unfair advantage in building Ho-suk's case. He ran a hand through his hair, disheveling it. They're trying to paint me as a bully using money and power to manipulate the system. Can they make that stick? No, but they can make noise, create doubt, force us to spend time and resources defending against baseless accusations. He looked exhausted. It's a war of attrition. Then we give them nothing to work with, I said. We make sure everything is documented, transparent, and above board. We show that this is legitimate documentary work, not some manufactured propaganda. Manshik looked at me with something like surprise. You've thought about this. Of course I have. The moment I took this job, I became part of the story. I need to make sure my part of it is unimpeachable. I pulled up my records on my tablet. Every session is documented with timestamps and location data. I keep detailed notes about what was photographed and why. I have a separate account for payments from you with clear tax documentation. If anyone questions my work, I can defend every single decision. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or relief that someone understood the complexity of what they were facing. You're very thorough. I'm very aware that I'm probably being investigated right now by Moore's team, I corrected, so I'm making sure there's nothing to find except good work and honest documentation. Ho-suk smiled. I told you she was smart, Appa. That night, after Rose was asleep and Ho-suk had retreated to her study, I found myself on the terrace with Manshik. It had become something of an unspoken routine. If we were both there late, we'd end up talking. Can I, ask you something? I said. Always. Why are you so involved in this custody battle? Most brothers would support from a distance, maybe help financially, but you're deeply invested. He was quiet for a long time, staring out at Seoul's lights. When our parents died 5 years ago, Ho-suk had just gotten married. She was happy, settled. I thought she'd be fine. His voice was carefully controlled. I was wrong. Eric was emotionally abusive, subtle at first, undermining her confidence, isolating her from friends, making her doubt her own judgment. By the time I really understood what was happening, she'd lost so much of herself. That's not your fault. I was so focused on the company, on building something our parents would have been proud of, that I missed my sister drowning right in front of me. He finally looked at me. I won't make that mistake again. I won't let Eric take Rose and subject her to the same manipulation. So yes, I'm deeply invested, because I failed my sister once. I won't do it again. The vulnerability in his voice, the genuine regret, it made him suddenly intensely human. Not the polished CEO or the intimidating protector, just a man trying to make up for past mistakes. You're a good brother, I said quietly. I'm a brother trying to be better. He turned to face me fully. And having you here, documenting the truth, it helps more than you know. Not just for the case, but for Ho-suk. You see her as she really is, not as Eric tried to make her believe she was. That matters. We stood there in comfortable silence for a while, and I realized I'd started to care about this family beyond the professional contract. That was probably dangerous, but I couldn't seem to stop. Chapter 6. 3 months into the contract, Ho-suk invited me to a gallery opening. As a friend, not work, she clarified. Though you're welcome to bring your camera if you want, I just thought you might enjoy it. I went, and it was the first time I'd socialized with the Baes outside of family contexts. Ho-suk introduced me to other curators, artists, collectors. I met people who could actually help my career, made connections that had nothing to do with the custody case. About halfway through the evening, Eric Moore appeared. I recognized him from photos, polished, handsome in a calculated way, expensive suit. He approached Ho-suk with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ho-suk, you look well. She stiffened. Eric, I didn't know you'd be here. I'm representing one of the artists. We can be professional, can't we? His gaze shifted to me. And you must be the photographer. Lucinda Phi, isn't it? My instincts screamed warning. That's right. Eric Moore. I'm Rose's father. He extended a hand, which I shook briefly. His grip was too firm, too long. I've heard a lot about you. I'm sure you have. It's fascinating, really. You helped my ex-wife at a club, and suddenly you're embedded in my daughter's life. Photographing her, spending time with her, living at... He paused. Where is it you're living now? I have an apartment in Itaewon. Interesting. My sources suggested you were at the Bai estate. This was a test. He was trying to catch me in a lie or get me to confirm something he could use. I work with the family regularly. Sometimes that requires being at their home, but I have my own place. Of course. His smile sharpened. I'm sure it's all very professional, though one has to wonder about the optics. A young woman, a wealthy family, a custody battle. The timing is quite convenient. Eric... Ho-suk's voice was ice. Don't. I'm simply making conversation. But his eyes stayed on me. Ms. Phi, do you have children? No. Then you wouldn't understand the concern a parent feels when strangers are given access to their child. I'm sure you're lovely, but you must see how it looks from my perspective. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the tension. More. Manshik approached with Roy flanking him. He positioned himself slightly in front of me, not overtly protective, but the message was clear. Bae, Eric acknowledged. I was just getting to know Ms. Phi since she spends so much time with my daughter. Ms. Fai is a professional photographer doing legitimate documentary work. Your attempt to make it sound sinister is transparent. Manshik's voice was controlled, but I heard the steel underneath. And if you approach her again outside of proper legal channels, we'll be filing harassment charges. I'm simply talking. You're fishing for information and trying to intimidate a witness. We both know it. So does everyone watching this interaction. Manshik moved closer to Eric, lowering his voice. I've been patient because of Rose, but my patience has limits. Cross them, and you'll discover exactly how much influence I actually have. For a moment, the two men stared at each other. Then Eric smiled tightly. Enjoy your evening. He walked away, and I released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Are you all right? Manshik turned to me, his expression shifting from threatening to concerned. I'm fine. He didn't say anything I couldn't handle. Nevertheless, we should go. He looked at Hosuk. This was a setup. He knew we'd be here. Hosuk nodded, already gathering her things. As we left, I felt eyes on us, people who'd witnessed the confrontation, probably already spreading gossip. In the car, Manshik was tense, jaw tight. Hosuk sat in front with the driver, leaving me in back with Manshik. I'm sorry, he said finally. That shouldn't have happened. It was going to happen eventually. At least now we know his strategy. He'll try to rattle us, get us to react poorly, create scenes he can use. You handled it well. I told you, I can handle myself. I looked at him. But I appreciate the backup. His eyes met mine in the dim car. Always. Something passed between us in that moment. An acknowledgement of alliance, of trust. Maybe more, though I wasn't ready to examine that yet. We should implement new protocols, Roy said from the front seat. If Moore is going to actively confront people, we need to be prepared. Agreed, Menshik said. Lucinda, I'd like you to vary your routine. Different routes, different times, and if you notice anyone following you, call immediately. You think he'd have me followed? I think he's desperate, and desperate people make dangerous choices. He wasn't wrong. Eric Moore had the look of a man who couldn't accept losing. The question was, how far would he go to win? Chapter 7. 2 weeks after the gallery incident, I noticed the same car behind me 3 times in 2 days. Different locations, but the same silver sedan. I documented it, photos, times, locations, then called Roy. Don't go home, he said immediately. Go to a public place. I'm sending security to you now. I ended up at a busy coffee shop, pretending to work while watching the street. Sure enough, the silver sedan parked across the road. The driver, a middle-aged man in a nondescript jacket, waited, watching the coffee shop entrance. 20 minutes later, Roy arrived with 2 security personnel. They approached the silver sedan, and I watched through the window as they had a conversation with the driver. Whatever was said, the man looked unhappy. He drove away, and Roy came into the coffee shop. Private investigator, he confirmed. Working for Moore. He's been instructed to cease surveillance, but I doubt that'll last. We're filing a police report and a restraining order. On your behalf. A restraining order seems extreme. You're a material witness in a custody case being actively stalked. It's not extreme. It's necessary. He sat across from me. Mr. Bay is concerned about your safety. I can take care of myself. I don't doubt that. But having resources available doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. He pulled out a card. This is for a security company we contract with. They can do a sweep of your apartment, install some basic security measures. Mr. Bay will cover the cost. I can't accept. You're being targeted because of work you're doing for our family. The least we can do is ensure your safety. His expression was kind but firm. Please, let us help. I accepted the card, though it felt uncomfortable. This was escalating beyond a simple photography contract. That evening, I got a call from Manshik. Roy told me about the surveillance. Are you all right? I'm fine. Honestly, it's more annoying than scary. It's unacceptable. I've spoken with our lawyers. We're pursuing multiple legal actions against Moore for witness intimidation. He paused. I'm also assigning you a security detail. What? No, absolutely not. Lucinda. I'm not having bodyguards following me around. That's ridiculous. Someone already is following you around. I'm simply ensuring it's someone there to protect you rather than intimidate you. His voice was firm. This isn't negotiable. Either you accept reasonable security measures, or I'm terminating the contract to keep you safe. That stopped me. You can't terminate because you're worried about me. I can and will if it means keeping you out of Moore's crosshairs. He sighed. Please, don't fight me on this. It's a car and driver who happens to be trained in security. Nothing overt. Nothing that screams bodyguard. Just someone to ensure you're not being followed or harassed. When he put it that way, it sounded almost reasonable. Fine. But they stay in the car. I'm not having someone hovering over me all day. Agreed. Thank you. The security driver, a woman named Minji, started the next day. She was professional, discreet, and surprisingly easy to talk to. Within a week, I'd almost forgotten she was there for protection, rather than just convenience. But the incident had rattled something loose in the case. Moore's lawyers filed motions claiming the Baillis were using their wealth to harass and intimidate him. Our lawyers filed counter motions with evidence of the PI surveillance. Everything got messier. This is my fault. I told Hosuk during a Tuesday homework session with Rose. If I hadn't taken this job, then we wouldn't have the beautiful documentation of my relationship with my daughter. We wouldn't have your support, your perspective, your friendship. She squeezed my hand. Eric would have found something else to weaponize. That's what he does. You're not the problem. You're proof that we have people who care about us. Your moms. Right. Rose piped up from where she was working on math problems. You're like our truth photographer. You show what's real. Out of the mouths of 8-year-olds. Chapter 8. 4 months into the contract, Hosuk invited me to a weekend at the Bai family cabin in the mountains. No work, she insisted. Just relaxation. You've been running yourself ragged between your regular clients and our family. You need a break. I initially declined, but Rose's pleading and Manshik's quiet. It would be good to have you there. Convinced me. The cabin was beautiful. Traditional Korean architecture with modern amenities surrounded by forest, with a view of mountains that took my breath away. Manshik had driven us up Friday evening, and we'd settled in with hot tea and comfortable silence. Saturday morning, I woke early and found Manshik already up, standing on the deck with coffee, watching the sunrise. Couldn't sleep? I asked, joining him. I sleep better here than in the city. Less noise, fewer distractions. He glanced at me. You're up early, too. Photographer's habit. Best light is golden hour. We stood in comfortable quiet, sipping. Coffee, watching the world wake up. It felt natural, easy, like we'd been doing this for years rather than months. Can I ask you something personal? He said finally. Sure. Why did you come to Seoul? Your portfolio suggests you were building a good career in New York? I considered how much to share. My mom got sick last year. Cancer. She beat it, but the medical bills were crushing, even with insurance. I was taking any photography job I could find. Weddings, corporate headshots, events I hated, just to send money home. I wrapped my hands around my coffee mug. A friend told me about opportunities in Seoul, how the event photography market was growing, how I could make better money, so I came. Figured I'd stay a year, build savings, then decide what's next. Is your mother all right now? Yeah, she's in remission. Bills are mostly paid off. My brothers are both in college on scholarships, so the pressure's less. I looked at him. This contract with you, it covered what we still owed on the medical debt. So thank you for that. His expression softened. You sent it all home. Of course I did. That's why I took the job. Most people would have kept some for themselves, built their own savings. I will, but family comes first. I met his eyes. You understand that. I do. He held my gaze for a long moment. You're remarkable, Lucinda Phi. I'm practical. There's a difference. No, he said quietly. You're remarkable. The moment stretched between us, charged with something I wasn't ready to name. Then Rose's voice called from inside, breaking the spell. Uncle Manshik, Lucinda, Iyama made pancakes. We went inside, and the weekend continued in a blur of hiking, board games, and Rose's endless energy. That evening, after Rose was asleep, the three adults sat on the deck under stars more visible than anything I'd seen in years. "This is perfect," Hosuk said softly. "This is what I want for Rose. Family, peace, love, not courtrooms and lawyers and constant judgment." "2 more months," Manshik said. "The hearing is in 2 months. After that, it's done. Unless Eric appeals. He won't have grounds." He spoke with confidence, but I heard the underlying worry. "We have everything documented." Ms. Choi is confident. "I'm just tired," Hosuk admitted. "Tired of fighting, tired of defending myself, tired of feeling like every moment of happiness is evidence that might be twisted against me." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're an amazing mother. The photos prove it, the testimonies will prove it, and most importantly, Rose knows it. That's what matters." She smiled at me, eyes bright with unshed tears. "How did we get so lucky to have you walk into our lives?" "Dumb luck and good timing," I said lightly. But when I glanced at Manshik, I found him watching me with an expression that made my heart skip. That night, I couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts, too many feelings I'd been pushing aside. I got up for water and found Manshik in the kitchen, apparently having the same problem. "Insomnia?" I asked. "Something like that." He poured me water without asking, handed me the glass. "Can't stop thinking about the hearing, running through every possible scenario." "You've done everything you can. You've protected Hosuk, supported her, documented everything. Now you have to trust the system." "I don't trust the system. I trust preparation." "Sometimes those are the same thing." I leaned against the counter. "Can I tell you what I see when I look at your family?" "Please." "I see a mother who loves her daughter more than anything. I see a little girl who's confident, creative, and secure. I see an uncle who would move mountains to protect his family. And I see all of you supporting each other through something that would break most people." I met his eyes. "That's what the judge will see too, because it's the truth." He moved closer, and suddenly the kitchen felt very small. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" My pulse kicked up. "What?" "Someone who walked into a difficult situation and made it better just by being in it. Someone who could have taken the easy money and done the minimum, but instead became part of our family. Someone who—" He stopped himself, jaw tightening. "Someone who what?" "Someone who matters," he said finally, voice rough. "To Rose, to Hosuk, to me." The air between us felt electric. We were standing too close, the darkness and intimacy of the late hour making everything feel more intense. "Manshik, I know this is complicated. I know there are professional boundaries. I know the timing is terrible." His eyes searched mine. "But I need you to know, what I feel for you goes beyond gratitude or professional respect. You've become essential, and I don't know what to do with that." My breath caught, because I felt it too, had been feeling it for weeks but couldn't acknowledge it. He was my employer, Hosuk's brother, wrapped up in a complicated legal situation. This was a terrible idea, but terrible ideas had a way of feeling inevitable. "I don't know either," I whispered. He reached up slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His hand lingered, thumb brushing my cheek. "Tell me to stop," he said quietly. "Tell me this is just professional, and I'll never bring it up again." I should have stepped back, drawn a line, protected us both from complication. Instead, I leaned into his touch. "I can't," I admitted, "because it's not just professional anymore. Not for me, either." His eyes darkened, and for a heartbeat, I thought he'd kiss me. Wanted him to kiss me. Professional boundaries and complications be damned. Then we heard footsteps. We stepped apart quickly as Hosuk appeared in the doorway, sleepy and wrapped in a robe. "Can't sleep either?" she asked, oblivious to the tension she'd interrupted. "Too much coffee," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Same," Manshik added smoothly. "We were just discussing the schedule for tomorrow." If Hosuk suspected anything, she didn't show it. She got her own water and chatted about breakfast plans, and the moment dissolved into normalcy. But when I finally went back to bed, I lay awake knowing everything had changed. Manshik Bai had feelings for me. And God help me, I had feelings for him too. This was going to get so much more complicated. Chapter 9. After the cabin weekend, something shifted. Manshik and I didn't discuss what had almost happened in the kitchen, but it hung between us, acknowledged but unspoken. We were more careful about being alone together, more aware of how we looked when others were around. But that awareness just made everything more intense. 5 months into the contract, Manshik invited me to a business dinner, one of those corporate networking events where Seoul's elite gathered to make deals and show status. Hosuk can't make it, he explained, and I'd appreciate having someone there who can help me look human and approachable instead of like a corporate robot. You want me to be your date. I want you to be a friend attending a business dinner. If that happens to look like a date, so be it. His eyes held mine. But I understand if you'd rather not. I'll go. He smiled, real and warm. Thank you. Fair warning. These things are usually boring. But the food is good, and you might meet some gallery owners who could be useful for your career. The dinner was at an exclusive restaurant with a guest list that read like a who's who of Korean business. I dressed carefully, a deep blue dress that was elegant without being flashy, and when Minji dropped me off, I found Manchik waiting at the entrance. He looked devastating in a tailored black suit, and when he saw me, something heated flashed in his eyes before he controlled it. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "You clean up okay yourself." He offered his arm with a slight smile. "Shall we face the wolves together?" The evening was exactly as he'd predicted. Lots of polite conversation, strategic networking, subtle power plays. But Manshik stayed close, introducing me as the photographer documenting my family's life, which was both true and carefully neutral. About halfway through dinner, a woman approached, elegant, probably early 30s, with the kind of beauty that came from money and good. Jeans. Manshik, it's been too long. Her English was perfect, accent suggesting international schooling. She kissed his cheek with familiar ease. "I heard you'd be here tonight." "Hyejin, good to see you." His tone was polite but not warm. "This is Lucinda Fai. She's a photographer I'm working with." Hyejin's gaze assessed me coolly. "Charming. I didn't know you were interested in photography." "I'm interested in honest documentation," he corrected. "Ms. Fai provides that." "How professional." Something sharp underlaid her words. To me, Manshik and I went to university together. We were close. "Briefly," Manshik said firmly. "A long time ago." "Not that long." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, I'll let you two get back to your working relationship. Enjoy your evening." After she left, I raised an eyebrow at Manshik. "Ex-girlfriend?" "More like an unfortunate semester in my early 20s. He looked uncomfortable. "We dated briefly. She wanted something more serious. I didn't. She's never quite forgiven me for that. She seemed friendly enough. Hyejin is never friendly without agenda." He glanced at me. "Sorry about that. I should have warned you there'd be people from my past here. It's fine. Everyone has exes." "Do you?" The question came out before he could stop it, and he immediately looked like he regretted asking. "Sorry, that's none of my business. It's okay, and yes, I do. A few. No one serious enough to follow me to Seoul, if that's what you're wondering." "I wasn't wondering that specifically, but it's good to know." He smiled slightly. "Though I'm curious what kind of fool would let you leave New York without a fight. The kind who valued his freedom more than a relationship." I shrugged. We wanted different things. He wanted casual, I wanted something real. So we ended it. His loss. The way he said it, quiet, certain, made heat rise in my cheeks. The rest of the dinner passed without incident, and I did end up meeting 2 gallery owners who expressed genuine interest in my work. As Minji drove us home, I felt good about the evening. "Thank you for coming tonight," Manshik said. "You made it significantly more bearable." "That's what friends do, right?" "Right. Friends." But the way he looked at me suggested we both knew we'd crossed some invisible line past friendship weeks ago. Chapter 10. 1 week before the custody hearing, everything erupted. Eric Moore's legal team filed emergency motions claiming Hosuk was involved in an inappropriate relationship with me, and that this proved her poor judgment. They had photos, lots of them, taken by the PY who'd been following me months ago before the restraining order. Images of me with the family, me hugging Rose, me and Hosuk laughing together at a museum, and several of me with Manshik. Us at that business dinner, standing close at various family events. One particularly damning shot of us on the cabin deck that had been taken from distance, making our body language look more intimate than it was. The implication was clear. I was romantically involved with Hosuk, or possibly with Manshik, or manipulating the whole family. It didn't matter that none of it was true. The optics were terrible. "This is character assassination," Ms. Choi, the attorney, said during an emergency meeting. "But we can counter it. We have documentation showing the professional nature of your relationship. We have testimony from... We have photos that tell whatever story Moore wants them to tell." Manshik cut her off. His expression was carved from stone. "He's not trying to prove anything in court. He's trying to plant doubt to make the judge question everything. Then we put Ms. Fai on the stand," Ms. Choi said. "She can testify to the nature of her relationship with the family, the professional boundaries, the legitimate work she's been doing." They all looked at me. "I'll do it," I said. "Whatever you need." "Lucinda." Manshik's voice was rough. "Testifying will open you up to cross-examination. Moore's lawyers will tear apart your every word, your every decision. They'll try to make you look like a con artist or worse. Then I'll prove I'm not." I looked at Ms. Choi. What do I need to do? What followed were 3 days of intensive preparation. Ms. Choi drilled me on potential questions. Hostile scenarios, how to stay calm under pressure. Roy provided documentation of every interaction I'd had with the family. Manshik was present for all of it, his tension palpable. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I went to the balcony of my apartment and found myself looking toward the Bai estate in the distance, wondering if any of them were sleeping either. My phone buzzed. A text from Manshik. "Are you awake?" "Unfortunately, same. Can I call?" "Yes." My phone rang immediately. His voice was tired, stressed. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear it." "Okay. You don't have to testify tomorrow. I can tell Ms. Choi we're withdrawing you as a witness. Your photos can speak for themselves." He took a breath. "What I'm saying is, you can walk away from this. You've done more than enough. I won't hold it against you." "Are you trying to protect me or the case?" "You. Always you." His voice dropped. "Lucinda, watching Moore's lawyers prepare to interrogate you, knowing they'll try to destroy your character, I can't stand it. You didn't sign up for this level of scrutiny." "Yes, I did. I signed a contract knowing this was a custody battle. I knew it would get messy." "Not like this." "Exactly like this. And I'm not walking away." I softened my voice. "Manshik, Rose deserves to stay with her mother. Hosuk deserves to be free of Eric's manipulation. And you deserve to not carry the weight of protecting everyone alone. So I'm testifying. I'm telling the truth. And we're going to win." He was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, "I don't deserve you." Good thing we're not talking about what anyone deserves. We're talking about what's right. You make it sound simple. Because it is. Sometimes the complicated thing is actually the simplest choice. Show up, tell the truth, trust the outcome. "Lucinda?" "Yeah?" "After tomorrow, after this hearing, after everything is settled." He paused. "Can we talk? Really talk? About everything we haven't said?" My heart hammered. "Yes, I'd like that." "Good. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be difficult." "You too." "I'll try." A beat of silence. "Thank you for everything." After we hung up, I stood on the balcony for a long time, thinking about impossible choices and inevitable feelings and the way Manshik Bai had looked at me in that dark kitchen months ago. Tomorrow would be hard, but tomorrow would also bring truth. And maybe, if we were lucky, tomorrow would bring freedom. Chapter 11. The courthouse was chaos. Media everywhere, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Minji and 2 other security personnel formed a barrier as Manshik, Hosuk, and I entered together. Inside, the courtroom was all wood paneling and formal procedure. Eric sat with his legal team looking confident. When he saw me, his expression flickered with something smug. He thought he'd already won. The hearing began with procedural matters, then testimony from court-appointed evaluators. They'd done home visits, psychological assessments, interviewed Rose. Their reports were mixed. Both households showed strengths. Both parents demonstrated capability. Then Eric's lawyers began building their case. They presented evidence of Ho-suk's erratic behavior, the club incident, her association with me, the rapid integration of a stranger into Rose's life. They called their PI to the stand who testified about surveilling me, about how I'd spent significant time at the Bay residence, how I was often alone with Rose, how my relationship with the family appeared unusually close. Then they brought up Manshik's involvement, the amount of money paid for my services, the fact that I'd attended business dinners with him. The implication of impropriety was heavy. Ms. Choi handled cross-examination well, establishing that all my work was documented and legitimate, that the PI's surveillance itself was questionable. But doubt had been planted. After lunch recess, Ho-suk took the stand. She was incredible. Calm, articulate, honest about her struggles post-divorce, but clear about her growth and her devotion to Rose. She explained hiring me as a practical choice, documentation for court, someone Rose could be comfortable around, a professional who understood discretion. Eric's lawyer was brutal in cross-examination, trying to paint her as manipulative, trying to suggest inappropriate relationships, trying to break her composure. But Ho-suk held firm, and when asked directly if her brother's relationship with me was inappropriate, she looked the lawyer straight in the eye and said, "My brother has been nothing but professional. He hired Ms. Fai because her work is excellent. Any suggestion otherwise is your desperate attempt to create scandal where none exists." Then it was Manshik's turn. He took the stand with that same controlled intensity I'd seen from the beginning. Under oath, he walked through every decision, hiring me, the scope of work, the payment structure, the family's interaction with me. When Eric's lawyer tried to make it sound sinister, Manshik didn't flinch. "I hired Ms. Fai because she's talented, professional, and trustworthy. The amount I paid reflects the value of her work and the sensitivity required for this situation. As for attending events together, that's simply networking, something I do regularly with various business associates and friends." "Would you describe Ms. Fai as a friend, Mr. Bay?" "Yes. My family and I consider her a friend." "Just a friend?" Ms. Choi objected, but Manshik answered anyway. "Ms. Fai is someone I respect deeply, both professionally and personally. She's become important to my family. If you're asking whether there's inappropriate conduct, the answer is unequivocally no. She's been nothing but professional and ethical throughout her work with us." It was carefully worded, technically true, and completely sidestepped the real question of feelings, but it was enough. Then they called me. I took the stand, was sworn in, and faced the courtroom. My heart pounded, but I kept my expression calm. Ms. Choi handled my direct examination first, walking me through my background, how I met the Bais, the scope of my work. I explained my documentation process, showed examples of my notes and records, demonstrated the professional nature of everything. Then Eric's lawyer stood for cross-examination. "Ms. Fai, you were paid $50,000 for 6 months of work. That's quite generous, isn't it? It's fair compensation for the time commitment and the specialized nature of the work." "Specialized how?" "Documentary photography in a legal context requires not just technical skill, but discretion, emotional intelligence, and the ability to capture authentic moments while being unobtrusive. It's more complex than standard event photography. And yet, you had no previous experience with custody cases." "I had extensive experience documenting authentic human moments, which is exactly what this required. Every job is different. Every family is unique." "Let's talk about this family. You spent significant time alone with Rose Bay, correct?" "I spent time photographing her relationship with her mother, yes. Sometimes Rose and I were alone briefly, but always in appropriate contexts. Homework help, teaching her photography basics, age-appropriate conversations." "Did you ever discuss the custody case with her?" "Only when she brought it up, and only to reassure her that telling the truth was important." I kept my voice steady. "Rose is aware of what's happening. Pretending otherwise would be dishonest." How convenient that your honest documentation happens to support Ms. Bay's position entirely. It supports what's true, that Ho Suk is an excellent mother and Rose is thriving in her care. I can't change reality to fit a different narrative, and I wouldn't if I could. The lawyer tried several more angles, implying I was romantically involved with Ho Suk, then suggesting involvement with Manshik, trying to make me admit to manipulation or staging photos. I held firm on every question. Yes, I'd grown to care about this family. No, that didn't compromise my documentation. Yes, I'd become friends with them. No, friendship didn't mean dishonesty. Finally, the lawyer played what he must have thought was his trump card. Ms. Fai, isn't it true that you're in love with Manshik Bey? The courtroom went silent. Across the room, Manshik's expression didn't change, but I saw his hands tighten on the armrest. Ms. Choi objected, irrelevant and speculative. The judge looked at me. You may answer if you choose, Ms. Fai. I could have refused, could have said it was private, could have deflected. Instead, I looked directly at Eric's lawyer. My feelings for anyone are irrelevant to the facts of this case. What matters is that I've documented truth. That Ho Suk is a devoted mother. That Rose is happy, secure, and loved. That this family supports each other through difficulty. Whether I personally care about them doesn't change any of those facts. It just means I was lucky enough to witness them. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. You're trying to paint me as compromised, but the opposite is true. I care about this family because they're worth caring about, and that care made me more determined to show the truth, not less. I was dismissed shortly after, legs shaking as I returned to my seat. Manshik's eyes followed me the entire way. The final testimony was Rose herself, questioned gently in the judge's chambers. I wasn't present, but Ho Suk told me later that her daughter had been brave, clear about wanting to live with her mother, and honest about loving both parents, but feeling safer with Ho Suk. Then came closing arguments, and finally, the judge took a brief recess before returning with her decision. The next 10 minutes felt like hours. The judge reviewed evidence, testimony, evaluations. She acknowledged the complexity of the case, the strong feelings on both sides, the legitimate concerns about Rose's welfare. Then she began her ruling. After reviewing all evidence and testimony, I find that Rose Bey is currently thriving in her mother's care. The home environment is stable, loving, and supportive. Ms. Bey has demonstrated consistent, competent parenting and has strong family support. My heart hammered. Mr. Moore's concerns about Ms. Fai's involvement are noted, but I find her testimony credible and her documentation valuable. The suggestion of impropriety appears to be speculation rather than evidence. Eric's expression darkened. Therefore, I am awarding a primary physical custody to Ms. Ho Suk Bey with standard visitation rights for Mr. Moore. This arrangement will be reviewed in 1 year, at which time either party may petition for a modification if circumstances substantially change. The gavel came down. Ho Suk collapsed forward, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Manshik pulled her into a fierce hug, his own eyes suspiciously bright. Across the room, Eric stood abruptly and left without a word, his lawyer gathering papers with tight-lipped disapproval. We'd won. Chapter 12. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed again, but Manshik's security team cleared a path. We made it to the cars, and suddenly we were driving away from 6 months of stress and fighting towards something that felt like freedom. Back at the Bay residence, Rose was waiting with her grandmother, Ho Suk's aunt, who'd been watching her during the hearing. When Ho Suk told her daughter the news, Rose burst into tears of relief, wrapping herself around her mother like she'd never let go. "Can Lucinda take a picture of this?" Rose asked through tears. "So we remember the happy day?" I did, capturing the pure joy of mother and daughter, reunited without the shadow of uncertainty hanging over them. That evening, after Rose was asleep and Ho Suk had retreated to call friends with the news, I found myself on the terrace. The same one where Manshik and I had stood months ago, dancing around feelings we couldn't quite acknowledge. Footsteps behind me. I didn't need to turn to... No, it was him. "We did it," he said quietly. "Ho Suk did it. Rose did it. You did it." I looked at him. "I just documented. You were remarkable in there today. The way you handled that cross-examination, the way you stood firm on truth. He moved closer. You saved us. I told the truth, that's all. That's everything. He stood beside me now, close enough that I could feel his warmth. Lucinda, I meant what I said last night. We need to talk. Really talk. I know. Can we do that now? Or do you need time, space? Now is good. I turned to face him fully. Say what you need to say. He took a breath, and I saw vulnerability flash across his features, the controlled CEO replaced by just a man trying to find words. When you walked into my club 6 months ago and helped my sister, I saw you as a problem to solve, someone who'd complicated an already complicated situation. His eyes held mine. Within hours, you'd become interesting. Within weeks, essential. And sometime, in the past few months, you became... He stopped, jaw working. You became everything. My breath caught. I'm in love with you, he said simply. Completely, inconveniently, inevitably in love with you. I've been fighting it because of the case, because of professional boundaries, because I didn't want to add more complication to your life. But the hearing is over. The contract is fulfilled, and I can't pretend anymore. He moved closer, hands coming up to frame my face with devastating gentleness. I love how you see truth in everything. I love how you made Rose feel seen. I love how you stood up to Eric without flinching. I love how you challenge me, how you call me on my protective nonsense, how you make me want to be better. His thumb brushed my cheek. I love you, Lucinda Fye, and I need you to know that before you decide what happens next. Tears pricked my eyes. What happens next? That depends entirely on you. If you want to walk away, I'll respect that. If you need time, I'll wait. But if there's any chance, any possibility that you feel even a fraction of what I feel... I kissed him, pulled him down by his collar, and kissed him like I'd been wanting to for months. He made a sound of surprise that morphed into something deeper as he pulled me closer, kissing me back with the intensity I'd always sensed beneath his controlled exterior. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm taking that as a yes? His voice was rough, hopeful. I'm in love with you too, I whispered. Have been for months. I just didn't know what to do about it because of the case, the contract, everything. He kissed me again, cutting off my rambling explanation. This kiss was slower, deeper, full of promise and relief and joy. When we separated this time, he was smiling. Truly, genuinely smiling in a way I'd never seen. So what now? I asked. The contract is technically fulfilled. I've completed the 6 months. Stay. He pulled me close again, arms wrapped securely around me. Not because of a contract. Not because of the family. Stay because you want to. Because this, he gestured between us, is real. Because I want to explore whatever this is without professional obligations hanging over us. I should probably warn you, I'm planning to stay in Seoul anyway. I've gotten too attached to this city. Just the city? Well, and maybe the coffee. And the food. I smiled against his chest. And possibly this really intense CEO who locked me in a club once. I did not lock you in. I just strongly encouraged your presence. You locked the exits. Semantics. But he was smiling. Lucinda? Yeah? Thank you for staying that night, for taking the job, for becoming part of our family, for... His arms tightened. For being you. We stood there under Seoul's night sky, holding each other, and I felt something settle in my chest, like I'd been walking toward this moment from the second I'd grabbed Hosuk's wrist in that club, not knowing it would lead here, to love, to family, to home. Chapter 13. 3 months later, my first major gallery exhibition opened in Seoul, the title, Found. Every photograph told a story of family, of truth, of moments that mattered. The centerpiece was a triptych, Hosuk and Rose on the day of the custody ruling, tear-stained and relieved. Man-shik watching them with unguarded love. And the three of them together, Rose pulling me into frame, insisting I was part of the family now. The exhibition was a critical success. Collectors bought pieces. Gallery owners approached me about future work. My career, the one I'd come to Seoul to build, was finally launching properly. But the best part was standing next to Manshik at the opening, his hand in mine, no longer hiding what we meant to each other. Hosuk approached with Rose, both of them beaming. The exhibition is incredible, Lucinda. You've captured so much truth. Only because you let me see it. Rose tugged my hand. Are you going to live with Uncle Manshik now? Because you're together... together? Manshik and I exchanged glances. We'd been discussing it, carefully, slowly, making sure we weren't rushing. Eventually, I said, right now I'm keeping my apartment and your uncle has his place and we're taking our time. That's boring, Rose announced. You should just live together and get married and have babies. Rose! Hosuk looked mortified. But Manshik laughed, a real, unguarded laugh that made several gallery patrons turn to look. She's not wrong about the married part, he said, looking at me with such open affection that my heart skipped. Though maybe we should date more than 3 months before discussing that. Probably wise, I agreed, but I was smiling. Later that night, after the gallery closed and we'd celebrated with champagne and Korean BBQ and Rose's excited chatter about her favorite photographs, Manshik and I stood on his apartment balcony overlooking Seoul. Can I tell you something? He said. Always. That night at the club, when I saw the security footage of you grabbing Hosuk, my first thought was, who is this woman who acts without fear? I had plenty of fear. But you didn't let it stop you. And that's what made me curious enough to talk to you instead of just having security escort you out. That curiosity became interest. Interest became respect. Respect became... He turned to face me. This. Us. Everything we are now. So you're saying I should thank that drunk PI for being aggressive? Absolutely not. But I am saying that sometimes the best things come from impossible moments. He pulled me close. You walked into my life at the worst possible time in the worst possible way, and you became the best thing that ever happened to me. That's very romantic for a CEO who once threatened my career. I've grown as a person. You really have. I looped my arms around his neck. For what it's worth, you became the best thing that happened to me too, even if you did lock me in a club. I will never live that down, will I? Never. I kissed him. But I forgive you. How generous. I am very generous. It's one of my best qualities. He laughed against my lips, then kissed me properly, and I thought about the strange path that had led here. A club, a wrong girl, a protective brother, a little girl who needed her truth told, a custody battle, and somehow, against all odds, love. Not the simple kind, not the easy kind, but the real kind. The kind worth fighting for. Lucinda? Manshik pulled back slightly. Yeah? Thank you for helping the wrong girl that night. I smiled. Thank you for not actually locking me in. I did lock. Shh, I kissed him quiet. You were protecting your family. I get it. And honestly, if you hadn't been paying attention, if you hadn't cared enough to check the footage, if you hadn't been the kind of man who puts family first, I met his eyes. I might not have fallen in love with you. So my controlling tendencies are actually attractive? In limited doses and only when wielded for good instead of evil. I'll make a note of that. His arms tightened around me. I love you. I love you too. I rested my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Now and always. From his apartment, I heard my phone buzz. Probably Hosuk sending pictures from the exhibition, or Rose demanding to know when we'd visit next, or my mom, 12 hours behind in New York, wanting to hear about the opening. My life, my family, my home. All because 6 months ago, I'd seen someone who needed help and acted without thinking. Best mistake I ever made. The end. Manshik and Lucinda found each other in the most impossible way. Now I want to hear from you. Comment below. Team Mind Your Business or Team Always Help? Subscribe for new Afro-Korean love stories every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays, and share this with someone who needs a good love story today.